Hey guys, Tbull here. Today I got a game in the Alaska for you. We're going to be checking out how to play American heavy cruisers. Got Einstein on the screen there. Highlight of that build is the turret traverse. So if you don't have him, I've never tried Kincaid, but I think I would run him if I didn't have Einstein based on the fact that he's got Ingenious, which allows you to swing the turrets around quicker. Here we got a game in the map Greece, which is a pretty good map to use these American heavy cruisers. We're going to be seeing how to play islands in these things. Some cruisers tend to do well playing next to islands, utilizing that cover. These are the ones that tend to have shells that arc higher up in the air. So Americans, the Brits tend to have some archetype shells, things of that nature. Lower trajectory type cruisers, guns that shoot flatter arcs, such as the Russians, gonna have a little bit more difficult time playing right next to the island. So for those type of cruisers, you want to get a little bit more distance between yourself and the island, which will change how you play it. Anyway, here pulling forward, we got two destroyers per side here. Now we spawn on the one side on A with a destroyer over here. That's a Shimakaze. And then we got a Fletcher moving up towards C. And the bulk of the force is going to the east. So we're pulling forward here. We want to get behind this island before Yamato blasts us. I did put the armor view up before this video got rolling. Wanted to point out the nose section of this. We can bounce pretty much all the battleships. None of the legendary tiers. We can't bounce Conqueror, Grover with the bigger guns. I'm not 100% sure what the smaller caliber guns are on the Gross or Kurfürst, but certainly not Yamato. But in terms of tier 7 battleships, I think we can bounce them all if we're sufficiently steeply angled, except for the Japanese battleships, which have 410 caliber guns, which are just big enough to overmatch the nose. So we can angle against a lot of ships in the Alaska, definitely all the cruisers. Trying to catch this Fletcher with the radar, we pulled forward just enough to get him spotted there, it looks like. Got one shot off, and then he disappeared briefly. I got to be very careful here because we got the Yamato and then Alaska directly to the north. Those guys are pinning me down. Whenever we got a ship that's kind of preventing us from crossing over into a section that we'd like to get into, that's called a pin, at least in the terminology that I use. And that's basically preventing us from getting over there. So we got a Shima versus a Fletcher on A. Now, if I'm the Fletcher, I'm going to rush that Shima, especially if I identify that he doesn't really have any close range help. But, those guys are doing kind of the standoff, which takes place a lot of times on A. It's kind of a weird map over there with a big dividing island in between that middle of the A section. Wichita going across. Now, because we're kind of pinned against, we got Yamato, we got Alaska, I think we got another Yamato over there. Can't really do a lot over there. I mean, I could try and hunker down and try and trade shots with those guys to the north, but DPM wise they're gonna likely beat me, especially because they got two Yamatos over there. So we back up, just seeing if we can support these guys over here. Now look at the map. We got pretty good coverage with this ship, and a lot of legendary tier ships have quite a wide firing range, so you want to be keeping an eye out for opportunities to potentially get some crossfires across the map. You can see enemy team, red team flip C. We're working on getting A. I think the Shima actually did kill the Fletcher a moment ago with those torps, so that's going to allow him to go ahead and capture the base. I'd still, if I'm the red team, I'd be looking for this Yamato and potentially the Alaska to go over there and try and get rid of that Shima. If they can prevent us from getting A, this game would probably be over relatively quickly. You can see on the eastern side our team's getting pushed back significantly, but they might be wary of me trying to pin them down from going over there. I think, if they kind of rush my position, they could probably take care of us here. You can see we got a couple battleships over here, but they're not really in position to be getting a lot of shots off. Wichita pushing through here. Now here we're going to start to see some of the nastiness that this American AP, which is always good with the American heavy cruisers. You got great AP on all those, but the Alaska is kind of the pinnacle, at least out of the ones we have right now. And if you're paying attention to this shell selection in this match, you'll see I'm probably using about I don't know, 80 to 90% AP. You definitely want to use it pretty much whenever possible. There'll be certain instances of we're shooting destroyers, we can hit them with the HE. That'd be preferable just to prevent the overpens and get some more mod damage. But in general, you get improved penetration angles, which means it's harder to angle against the AP, which means you should be using it more often than you would for standard penetration AP. Alaska is finally moving forward here, and we're going to try and delete him. Alaska, you know, if you do have a fairly robust citadel on the side, and we're going to go ahead and try and capitalize on that. Look out for the torps coming in here. We do have the Shima, and holy god, he blew up the Bismarck there. That probably ended up keeping us alive. You can see those torps kind of came out of nowhere. And if you looked on the map there, basically we had 4 ships in the same square. That's a juicy target for any destroyer to attack. You can basically just throw those torps in the area. You're bound to hit something. You might get a double strike. Whatever is going down, you're going to get some nice damage. So, you know, yet another reason to not bunch up. But, you know, we're working on the Alaska here. I'm trying to get him down. Yes, we do have that destroyer spotted over there. Ideally, you want to get shots on the destroyer. Yes, of course. But Alaska, keep in mind, these ships at Legendary tier, most of them are all going to have heals. The cruisers, well, the Alaska is the only cruiser we currently have, and it does have a heal. If you get a ship low and you know it's probably got heals, go ahead and try and get rid of it, because it's kind of demoralizing if you get a ship really low, especially if you're trying to rely on your teammates to give them the coup de grace, the finishing blow, and it doesn't happen. The guy gets away, gets a heal off or two, and then you see him later in the match with like half health all of a sudden. That can be kind of problematic, and it can definitely come back to haunt you. So even though, yes, we wanted to get the Shima down, definitely want to take that Alaska. You can see the Yamato just right to our north there. He's about 4 kilometers, 4.5 kilometers away. He's kind of been tying us down here. But we're not panicking. We're not doing anything too wild. I can back up faster than he can really move forward, to be honest with you, in most cases. So I'm not that worried about him. We're just got to keep an eye on the map consistently, make sure we know where he is. I'm hoping basically that the Yamato that's right over there would just go ahead and ram him. That would be ideal, because we are up by 2 ships here. Score, we're having potentially some problems if they get B, so we don't want to let this B cap scenario drag out too long. We'd like to get that resolved, but the longer this Yamato is sitting here, kind of limits some of my options. You know, if I have to disengage from B, or if I want to go around that island for whatever reason, that could be problematic. But someone whacked him there, and then we finished him off with a triple citadel there as well. And the Yamato, the guns hit hard, but if you get give people access to the broadside like that, or that nose section, they can really hammer you. So you got to be pretty careful when playing the Yamato. Shima coming around here finally is spotted, and we got the HE loaded, and going to go ahead and try and chime in here. We do have the radar available as well, should he smoke or kill the destroyer over there or something like that. But the Shima actually gets him with the torpedo, so that guy ended up torpedoing both of the enemy team's destroyers. You know, if it works, it works. I'm not going to complain about that. But the Shima, the red Shima, does get him, you know, with a revenge strike. So they both kind of torped each other, and they both took each other out, which is fine. At this point in time, as long as we can get B, we don't really need the destroyers. The destroyers, you know, late in game, they become quite valuable in terms of controlling the caps. But if both teams don't have the destroyers and you're able to control the majority of the caps, then you don't necessarily need them. Yes, they'd be nice for the spotting, of course, but it's not the end of the world. So we're going to move forward here, get on B. We're going to take these shots, and you can see we've got islands blocking us, so we can take these shots for free, essentially, send the ordnance down range, and they can't return fire just due to the fact that we're not getting spotted. So this is kind of what happens with these late game situations when there aren't destroyers spotting. It just kind of, you wind up waiting for your team to randomly spot them, and a lot of times your teammates won't be thinking about the spotting game. They'll just be kind of sailing into the fray. So if you're in a ship that can utilize the islands and you got a little bit of patience, just stick around. You know, we're definitely not in any hurry here because we're mainly focused on getting the caps, but you know, we're just kind of waiting for our team to spot these guys. Siegfried does finally come around there. Now we do get the cap, which is great because it's going to make it really hard for us to lose this game as long as we're staying alive. Really, we should have this one wrapped up. But we can go ahead and whack that guy, and even really long range with this AP, we're not going to have any trouble with these shots. So again, Alaska, stick with the AP until you're getting results that are demonstrating that it's really not doing anything. And it's going to be certain heavily armored battleships that are well angled that are going to be preventing you from scoring wicked shots. Bismarck, you know, even heavily armored tier 7 battleships like that, if they're giving you broadside, you can really do some major damage. Siegfried, he definitely doesn't have the armor scheme to stand up to this, and every time we can tickle him in the sides, he's going to take a walloping from us. So he's kind of feeling the heat, he's on the run, and we're just going to be moving forward here. Now the battleship to our northeast there, he's the Iowa, and again, we got the sufficient armor on the nose of this ship that I'm not really afraid of the Iowa. All we got to do is get close to him, nose in. We can hammer him with the front 2 guns, and it kind of becomes a battleship v battleship type duel in those instances where you're kind of targeting each other's main guns. So Iowa, you don't really have to be that afraid of it, but you know, especially if he's sitting there, and that was like about a 45-degree angle, Iowa, but again, we aimed up just a little bit just to make sure we get the penetration and go ahead and take him off the board. Bismarck, he's currently disengaged behind the island, and we're just going to, again, push into these guys. We got plenty of health here. We got a 2-ship advantage. We got the cap advantage, so, you know, this is a good situation, though, to illustrate the fact that we don't really need to be doing anything. Once you get these, you know, the cap advantage late game here, we don't have to be doing anything too aggressive. Now, again, because of the fact that both these guys are low health and we're just kind of going for style points, we're going to be pushing in a little bit. But let's say they got 3 ships, we got 2, or, you know, health situations a little bit dicier. Just stay back, defend B. You don't have to win harder by pushing into the enemy team. You just have to make sure that they're not going to win on score. So take out the Bismarck. The game's looking pretty locked up at this point in time. I'm thinking the Siegfried's probably just going to run for the hills. So we're going to go ahead and get on the cap, make sure we seal the win up, and try and go for some extra experience points. Capturing bases is a huge source of experience points. Far more valuable for you and your personal score than getting a little bit of extra chip damage at the end. So if you think you might have a little bit of time, you know, if you got a minute to flip a base, go ahead and do it. It's going to boost your score and boost your credit potential, your XP potential, all that sort of stuff. So it's always preferable. And plus, check the map. The guy's well within my max firing range. So again, we're just kind of waiting for our team to spot him. They're just rushing in there. And whenever they do, we'll likely have some shots, depending on how close he is to that island. If he's right next to it, probably won't be able to get him. But if he's got a little bit of distance between him and the island, as he does there, then we'll be able to go ahead and whack him. So, you know, I chose this game. It was a pretty good Alaska game overall, but I thought it was pretty effective in terms of the pacing. We weren't too eager, you know. A lot of times myself and a lot of players get in trouble just by getting too aggressive right off the bat and going down early, but good pacing and good use of the islands in my opinion. So that'll do it for that one, guys. Hopefully you did enjoy it. If you did, please hit the thumbs up. New to the channel, consider subscribing. Lots of World of Warships coming all the time. Questions, comments, leave below. Love to hear from you, and see y'all later. Peace.